Hi. For this week, we have to do a review of the past learning theories that we've been learning throughout this quarter. And I will start right away. So question one says, who developed stages of cognitive development? Um, what do you know about stage? And what is something a child can do at ages 2 to 7 and they can do at ages 7 to 12? So, cognitive development was by Piaget, and he believed that children learn or have go through four stages, which is like first, I think it's like sensory motor, and they have concrete, and then operational, and then I'm forgetting the second one. But yes, so unlike Erickson, that he believed that we had eight, he believed that we grew in four different stages. Um, so yes, the sensory motor is like kids learn or babies learn by sucking and putting stuff in their mouth, and then the 2 to 7, they began to pile on learning files, I guess, um, and by ages 7 to 12, that's when they started doing their concrete thinking, um, their like critical thinking, cause and effect, even be part of like a science project where like they create a hypothesis because they do have that concrete thinking. And then can do it. So obviously a kid 2 to 7 can't do that. But they can do that at ages 7 to 12. And let me see if I answered that correctly. Okay, so yes, I did. And then part of his theory from question one has to do with disequilibrium, assimilation, accommodation. What do you know about those words? Um, so then Piaget, he believed that in order for a child to go to move up a stage, the child would need to assimilate, accommodate, or be part of this disequilibrium in order for that child to go to the next stage. So the child would either accommodate to the current environment. So I mean, an example I'll give you, if you're coming from like that baby stage into two, where you have people who are talking now and are verbal, so then he will probably the baby now or the kid now accommodates and will start um, that's when they start learning how to talk and all that stuff. But that's more like a developmentally. I mean, yeah, I can go with that. And then assimilate. They assimilate with their peers or their expectations for their culture. And then disequilibrium, I think it happened if the child was having a hard time moving a stage, then he felt the child then feels disequilibrium, and then he either needs to assimilate or accommodate. So there we go. And then, what do you know about constructivism? We discussed that last week, and we had those two videos in that paper. So, constructivism believes that you learn best when you acquire that prior knowledge, and they also believe that you learn best by being hands on the experience and being exposed to your um, real life struggles, real life scenarios. And then I believe that one is when we had teachers are um, your facilitators, and then when you do, yes, teachers are facilitators. So yes, that's what I know about constructivism. And then we know what positive reinforcement and punishment are, but what is really negative reinforcement? So, um, remember this because we discussed this in the classroom. So, when we read about it. So, really negative, it's not negative, positive. It's not like how people perceive, that connotation. It's not negative, negative. It's not negative, it's not bad or punishment, or positive, it's not bad or positive either. It's just negative. It's just removing something that um, from that environment or um, from from that environment. Or positive is you're adding something. So positive is when you add, like, you give a chocolate to your 2-year-old because you want pee-pees in the toilet. Or negative is when you remove what can be a negative? When you remove the phone from your removing of a phone of a teenager, because after being told several times that you wanted her to be at home by 11, or no, that's too late, by 8, she didn't understand, so then you just remove that, which obviously now it creates a negative. But I will come back to it because that's sometimes I get confused, but I know that it's just taking away something from that environment. So yes, Erikson developed 8 stages of psychosocial development. Which one did he think was more critical and why? So I think we discussed this one in the classroom, and he believed, and I think as a whole classroom, we also believed that it was the first stage. So it's the trust versus mistrust. Because in order for the child to be successful in the future stages, the child needs to be able to trust either caregiver or parents. Because if not, then the child will become a kid, will become a human, or an adult, I mean, that will go on through life, not feeling mistrust, and he will also not be able to reach the other stages, milestones. So the first one is like the important one, or it's critical. And then what do you know about the zone of proximal development? The line of regression. Yes, that's what I know. Why might it be important? Okay, so the line of regression. So this is Vygotsky. So you highlighted this in the classroom. So we can use this in a classroom because Vygotsky believed that there is a line of regression when the student learns the content in the classroom with the teacher being there as a facilitator, and then he goes back home with his parents, and then he has to do the homework. So there's always going to be the line of regression, and then that's just what he states that in his theory. And then he also believed with zone of proximal development, he believed that a student or a child learns if the child is, the teacher is facilitating the lesson, or can even learn from peers because he's in that like zone of proximal development. So yes. So what theory are the words empathy and sense of self part of? So this is Piaget again, and then this is the development, social emotional development theory. Yes, that's when we did that big sticky project. Why would this area of thought have an impact on the way students learn? Well, because I believe, as a future educator, you want your children to be, to know, have a sense of who they are and sense of self. Because, in order for them to become successful in a classroom or outside the classroom, a child must know and must learn, like I'm worthy, I am capable of doing this, um, which creates, high expectations, which then equals to, good grades in a classroom. So I believe that's why a child should have great self of themselves, because I think that's the stepping stone in order for them to be successful students. So, they have to be secure and they have to know who they are. And I think that's very important. And then empathy, just a word. Um, Also, I mean, as a future teacher, I would want my kids in my classroom to have empathy and to have some sort of, not feel bad, but feel for their peers. And because if you, I don't know, in a classroom, you want your students to respect each other, to even trust each other, and I think empathy is a great um, characteristic that children should have because they should care for others. And then, I mean, empathy can not only be used in the classroom setting. It can be used in the future. Future setting, the job fields, or even in the relationship. No, not relationship, but even as grow up. So, but yeah. And then number 8. 11 minutes. Why would constructivism want to do away with the way grading is currently done in schools and as well as standardized testing? Because they believe that children learn best um, by being exposed to the real world problems and being hands on with the what's it called? Being hands on with the experience. So that's why they kind of don't believe in standardized tests because, I mean, standardized test is, you just kind of what you've learned, and it's more, I believe, it's the teacher putting stuff, the material, the content that you should know because they want the testing versus your extrinsic, I believe it is, where the teachers she cares about if you are actually um, getting the content. So, um, so that's why they kind of stay away from, or they don't, they stay away from standardized testing because they don't believe in that. They believe that learning should be done in a collaborative environment with peers, and and yeah, and then you have number 9. The very early theories came out of the idea of conditioning. Why were people so opposed to using the real terms when these theories came into schools? So we also discussed, because it was operant and then I think it was conditioning. So obviously conditioning, it has a real bad connotation to it. And I believe it was also the other, it was connected. People said like, oh, as dogs, the what was it? The study done by dogs, or my child is not, he's not conditioned. So it was those very negative connotations that people just didn't want to use those terms in a classroom or a school setting, and then that's when they changed it to it was the first stage, which was prompts. That's the above. I forget, but yes. Um, I'm sorry, I'm going blank right now. It's late. But yes. So I think I did pretty good. Probably the only one right now I'm struggling. I'm not struggling, but I mean, I'll just have to go read more back to it, is the negative reinforcement, which is basically, I know it's taking away something. But yeah, thank you so much, and see you on Tuesday.